According to the Pew Research Center, over 1 million marine wildlife animals are killed by plastic pollution every year in some way. That number then doubles to 2 million if you include seabirds, which are birds who hunt on the ocean or live near the ocean. If plastic pollution continues to rise at its current rate, scientists predict that by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish in the ocean. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nari Dorsey. In my last speech, I gave you guys some context on plastic pollution, and why it started, how it started, what it might look like, and just briefly talked about some of the negative impacts that it has on our marine wildlife and our ecosystem. In this speech, I will be persuading you guys as to why it is a problem and that why we should be worried about it and start to take action by diving deeper into those negative impacts that it has on our wildlife and also us, and combat a negative common misconception about plastic and about why plastic is vilified and why it shouldn't be when regarding plastic pollution. So plastic pollution affects our marine wildlife in three specific ways. The first way would be through ingestion, which is when an animal ingests or eats a piece of plastic. That plastic can get lodged in their throat and stop them from eating anything else, which leads to death by malnutrition, or it can suffocate them, which leads to suffocation. The second way would be through entanglement. So any piece of plastic, really, a net, a plastic cup, a straw, bottle cap, a bottle, bottle carriers, they're all able to entangle our wildlife, which leads to, again, suffocation. The last way would be through the pollutants and the toxins that plastic carries and emits. So if an animal eats a piece of plastic and they're able to digest it, that plastic then sits in their stomach and it emits toxic chemicals and poisonous chemicals, and it kills that animal from the inside out. So, for example, if a sea turtle ate a plastic bag, mistook a plastic bag for a jellyfish, and it digested it, that plastic bag would then seep toxic chemicals into the sea turtle's intestines and system, and it would poison them from the inside out. And then if that sea turtle, was subject to predation and it was eaten by another animal, let's say a shark, that shark would then be subject to those toxins and carry around those toxins and spread it throughout the food chain. Those are the three main ways that plastic pollution affects our marine wildlife, but plastic also has a negative impact on us as humans. Scientists at Ghent University in Belgium found that people who consume shellfish often end up consuming 11,000 pieces of microplastics per year. And even though our bodies are able to digest 1% of that plastic, as it builds up and builds up, it'll start to do the exact same things it does to our marine wildlife, which is seep those poisonous chemicals into our system. Now, eating seafood is not the only way for us to be affected by plastic pollution. It also has taken a toll on our water supply, or our water. So most of us drink water bottles, bottled water from big brand name companies or generic companies. But a study released in 2018 by Orb Media found that for every liter of bottled water you are drinking, you are also consuming about 10 pieces of microplastics, which again is not a lot in and of itself. But when you realize how much bottled water you drink every day or every week, every month, or at the end of the year, how many bottles of water have you drunken? There are, you start to realize how much plastic you're accumulating in yourself. And we believe that our bottled water is distilled and it's ran through a process to clean it, but somehow these plastics are still making their way through these processes and getting into our system. So those are the two main ways that plastic pollution affects not only us, but our marine wildlife. Now, when you mention plastic pollution, there's also a negative misconception that plastic is the problem in this situation. And that plastic, some people think that plastic should have never been made, and that plastic is the bad guy, when in reality, it's not. Plastic has had a major role in the advancement of our society, both in technology, in medicine, and almost any other field that you can think of. Plastic has played a major role in developing that field. So some of the things that plastic has provided us or given us would be things like cars, our phones, what we do without our Apple phones, our computers. In the medical field, things like syringes, catheters, IV tubes, insulin pens, surgical gloves, which are a big thing now because, the virus is going around. But these things would all not be possible without plastic. And what a lot of people often forget is that if we were to replace plastic with something else, let's say aluminum or glass or some type of metal, it would still pose somewhat of a problem, because now we have to go dig these materials up. We have to process these materials. We have to do a lot of things to shape it and replace, all the things that plastic gives us. And another thing people forget is that, like the plastic bag was made as a substitute for paper bags because people wanted to stop deforestation. And now people want to stop plastic pollution, so the answer is to get rid of plastic bags. But plastic is not the problem in this situation. The main problem is the managing and disposal of the plastic. So a big problem is that people are still ignorant towards the situation. They still litter, they still mismanage their plastic. Scientists estimate that around 9 billion pieces of plastic just in the U.S. Enter the ocean every year, despite the U.S. spending roughly 11 billion on cleaning up litter every year. And a study found that a person will normally take 12 steps before tossing a piece of trash on the ground or littering, and then that maybe not every 16 feet, but on average, every 16 feet, there is a trash can. So even if the person is maybe right in front of a trash can, or the trash can is a few feet away from them, or, maybe not too far from them, they'll still opt to throw the trash on the ground rather than dispose of it how they should. Now, this problem is also has also taken effect on a macro scale. So a study found by a study conducted by OurWorldInData.org has evidence that suggests that low-income countries, such as those around South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, mismanage their waste or dispose of it inadequately, around 80 to 90% of it, while countries such as America and Europe and high-income countries dispose of it properly. Now, this does not mean that there is no plastic waste from these countries that gets into the ocean. It just means that the plastic that is collected and stored is collected properly and is managed properly and stored properly and disposed of properly. So in conclusion, today I've told you guys about why plastic pollution is a big problem, how it's affecting us and our ecosystem, and the main problem revolving around plastic. In my next presentation, I plan to give you guys my solution on what I think we should do about this problem. So thank you.